Hey, BraveCo men, I want to talk to you about our Foundations of Masculinity 12-week video series that we created for the guy that wants to grow stronger as a man. If you want to become a better leader, a better father, a better husband, have better relationships, this course is for you. And here's the thing. You get 12 incredible videos that literally walk you through step by step on how to grow. You also have homework with each one that is honestly pretty effective. And lastly, you get access to our private Facebook group. We're on there chatting with you guys. You can ask questions. You can connect with other men that are just like you. Go to braveco.org to check it out, and you can sign up today.
We live in a time where masculinity is shamed, and men don't know what it means to be a man. As a pastor and counselor, I've spent the better part of my life equipping and training others. My goal with this show is to translate my hard-earned experience into tools and tactics to help you become stronger as a man. This is the BraveCo podcast. I'm your host, Jason Vellet.
What's up, BraveCo men? We're back, and this week I have my good friend.
His favorite friend. The funniest and best looking friend.
Yeah.
Cole Zick.
The one and only Cole Zick. Cole, I'm stoked to have you here. For those of you that don't know Cole Zick, he is the director of More Revolution, and also he's my co-leader for our local men's ministry. And Cole, you're just an incredible man. You have a great family. You're a great husband. You've been married how long?
16 years.
Golly, man.
Our anniversary was when we were in Wyoming, and I had no cell phone service.
Yeah, well, again, like, you're such a great
The
man.
worst part is I left that night to go call my wife about something else, and I get done talking to her, and she goes, "Oh, and happy anniversary." I'm like, "Oh, crap."
Yeah, we recently went on a trip together.
Yeah.
We did a long-range shooting school with about 24 guys.
And since we're on recording, I should just start by saying this.
Yeah. Do it.
This is very hard to say, but you were right.
Ooh, was I?
Yeah. Jason, you for years have told me, bro, you love being in the woods. You got to get out in the woods. You got to shoot a gun. You got to try hunting. I'm like, Jay, it's just really not my thing, man. Like, baseball game, football game, sports and resorts. That's where I like to spend my time.
You're a sports and resorts guy.
I'm a sports and resorts guy. And Jay was like, hey, do you want to go on this? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I told Kate, like, I don't think I've told you this part. I literally told her a few days before, I'm like, I know I should be so grateful because so many guys would want to do this.
Yeah. But
I'm just really like, can't we go to 5 baseball parks and bond over 5 baseball games in a weekend? And but then, like, the day before, I'm like, okay, I'm getting really excited for this. And after walking away from that weekend, I was like, Jay, you're right. Being out in the woods was amazing. We're sleeping in a tent on a cot every night. There's not running water. You don't shower because you don't need to shower. Yeah. You're learning how to shoot guns, which that was an experience in and of itself that I loved. Riding horses. That was probably my favorite of all of it. And it was just awesome.
Yeah, it's not even just a horse ride. It's through the wilderness of Wyoming, which is like, we're at 10,000 feet elevation. And so it's crazy uphills, crazy downhills, off trails.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you thought, I'm not an outdoor guy, you got to at least try it once. Jason is right.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the best way to start the podcast.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know how awesome you are, Cole. So to have you on here is great. And I mean, some people might know how cool you are, but
a couple of people.
Yeah.
My wife knows.
She does.
At least my youngest of 4 children still thinks I'm cool. So what more can you hope for?
Hey, today we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about the science of sex. Or no, the science of porn.
Yeah. Which the two go together.
They kind of do, yeah. It's close to the same. And this is something that you know a ton about, not because of how much you've watched porn, but because of your role at More Revolution.
Yeah.
And More Revolution is a nonprofit that's designed to bring content, help change the morality of our nation. So we focus a lot on helping people understand what pornography does to their brain, We have all kinds of tools and curriculum. I say you guys have all kinds
you're a big part of it,
yeah.
obviously.
Tools and curriculum for adults, young
Yep.
people. So if you guys are going, if you're parents and you're like, man, how do I talk to my kids about porn? How do I talk to my kids about sex? Go to More Revolution.
We've got all kinds of content for you.
Tons of content.
You'll get to hear Jason and I a lot more because it's a lot of us and other people
And
a lot of
we have some experts on that, which
some
are
great experts.
We have some real
in addition
experts.
to our expertise,
But
which is basically failed parenting that we use to help you know what not to do.
It can be our personal experience.
That's right. So yeah, so I think to speak to that, just to give a little bit more of an intro, I'll kind of really quickly blitz my story because that helps inform the approach that I've taken when it comes to sex and understanding it. I've never looked at porn. Caitlin, 16 years ago, she's the first woman I've ever been with. And what that did, though, is it caused me to actually have to study and research to understand why are there so many men addicted to this thing?
Yeah.
Why are there so many men that are willing to sabotage their life, that are willing to completely deconstruct their family for an orgasm, for a moment, for an instant? And not having a sex addiction, never being addicted to an orgasm, only ever experiencing sex inside of the context of my relationship with Caitlin, I actually had to do some study and some research and a lot of it to really understand, when I'd look and see people that have completely destroyed and blown apart their life, why would you do that? And having to know why. I think the beauty there is what it's done is it's allowed me to look at the information subjectively. It's given me the ability to process studies that have been done psychologically, statistics that come out, and it's allowed me to have this kind of step back subjective view of porn addiction, sex addiction, and it helps me to kind of remove emotion. I don't have this emotional, shameful attachment.
Yeah.
I have a pretty disconnected from emotion, just able to, hey, here's the stats. Okay, then I can actually believe this. I can believe that freedom is possible because I don't have years of pain attached to it, right? And so...
and I have the opposite story.
Yeah.
My story is completely opposite. It's and most guys know this, but for those of you that haven't been listening for a long time, because they want to shut this podcast off. They're like, this Cole Zick has no idea
totally
what it's like, but I do. So
yeah,
mine is 10 years old, addicted to masturbation, get completely addicted to porn at 14, and have this hellish 2 years trying to break this porn addiction, and from 10 to 16 struggle with this crazy addiction to masturbation.
Yep.
And so many guys are stuck.
Well, and that story, Jay, is what caused me to ask certain questions. Okay, so for me not becoming addicted as a child, 90% of the men you talk to found it as a child and became addicted. Didn't want to.
Yeah.
And then I look at my boys who, when we started this job, were 8, 6, and 4, and I look at them. They have no desire to look at pornography. No, they don't want an addiction. They want to play wiffle ball and go to Disney and watch the Avengers on TV, right? There's zero desire for that, which is what caused me to step back and say, okay, so why would an entire demographic end up being addicted to something they did not want, they had no interest in? And that was the question I started asking when I started trying to research the science, the psychology, the stats, and the data behind it. How could we find an entire generation addicted to something they had no interest in?
And for those guys who don't fully understand, we literally have a whole generation, I mean, multiple generations that are completely addicted to porn. Statistics show us that.
Yep.
And these kids are getting addicted now. Kids are getting introduced to porn. What is it? 9 to 11 years old.
8 to 11.
8 to 11. And like you're saying, an 8-year-old child is not going, man,
I want this.
I want to see some
Nearly
boobs.
70% of those exposures were accidental. So you're talking a scenario where it was an advertisement that they clicked on and they didn't realize. They accidentally typed in something. It's so easy to do, right? Like I was looking for a ticket website to go to a football game 2 days ago. I type in the name of the ticket company, and it takes me to a porn site.
Yeah.
And of course, porn's on the front, the very front page. Like you don't even have to get into the site. You see it instantly, right? So it's an accidental click. It's a neighbor. It's an older cousin. It's an older brother saying, hey, check this out. And they show him something on a screen that kid wasn't prepared for. So it's being introduced by somebody, or it's an accidental click. Very, very rarely is the kid at 8 thinking, oh, I wonder if there's pictures of naked people that I can go watch. That's not happening.
And then, for a child who is introduced to it, pretty confusing.
It's super confusing.
Because you don't have this drive that says, oh, wow, I really want to see naked people. Mm-hmm. You don't have all the testosterone built up in your body, or for a woman, the different chemicals that are saying like, hey, I want to pursue a man. And so it's a really confusing, challenging time for these young boys. And we live in such a crazy world today where you can access porn almost instantly. And so I think it'd be good to dive into, first, let's understand what's happening inside of our brains, what's happening in our bodies when we look at porn, because I don't think that people actually really understand what's happening.
Yeah, totally. Well, the very first thing, especially if it was an early exposure, which is, again, the large majority, what instantly takes place in the brain is a young boy now sees the opposite sex completely differently.
Yeah.
Whether that's a classmate, whether that is a teacher, whether that's even a parent.
It's like the death of innocence.
It is. And what happens is it's making our men very emotionally inept. Because what takes place at that let's just use an exact number. Let's say a 10-year-old kid finds pornography.
Yep.
Doesn't have anybody to talk to, or doesn't feel comfortable talking, and starts looking at pornography repeatedly now over the next 4 to 5 years. They immediately now stop thinking, build relationship. I can have friends that are girls. I can be in a platonic relationship, and it instantly makes the relationship sexual.
Right.
So every interaction now becomes sexual. So if the moment they see kissing, it's got to be sexual. The moment they see hugging, it's got to be sexual. Now they're trying to kiss and they're trying to hug. Their motives in relationships with the opposite sex shift significantly. So fast forward this. The 10-year-old is now 28, is married to a woman that he absolutely loves.
Yeah.
And yet can't find himself not manipulating for sex. Because from that early age, he learned right away, oh man, that looks way more exciting than having a platonic relationship with a girl. I'm going to start to do and say everything I can to get as close or over that line as possible. And now just the dynamics of the relationship, and you talk to a lot of men that found porn really early, they'll say, yeah, I never saw women the same again. And it actually circumvented their ability to build emotional connection because it became all about sexual.
I mean, talk about a complete blow to marriage, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you're in a marriage and you're completely addicted to porn, but not only that, let's say that he's not even fully addicted to porn.
Just using it or abusing it periodically. Yep.
But how he's experienced sex. So that to me is like the secondary effect of what's happening is his first experience to this is what sex is.
Yep.
Right? Is this woman or this man doing all kinds of abnormal sexual acts?
Yeah.
Because sex inside of marriage, if you've never watched porn, is pretty freaking innocent.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. It's totally true.
And you don't have this idea that, every sexual experience is going to be an orgasm. Mm-hmm. She's going to be super loud. And I'm not trying to be,
absolutely.
Her
friend's going to come in the room and join. All that kind of stuff.
Violence is okay.
Yeah.
Because isn't it like violent porn is a majority of the porn that kids are consuming today?
It's like, it depends on which study, because different people view a violent or aggressive differently, and they rate them differently. It's anywhere between 45 to 85. I think Exodus Cry, it's a ministry, or not a ministry, it's a nonprofit that focuses on this. They would report, I think, about 65% of porn is violent in nature. Interesting statistic that they put in one of their documentaries is that you actually have to search for 13 minutes to find non-violent porn.
On Pornhub.
On Pornhub. That's violent porn is that prevalent. Right.
So check this out. You get married. You've been consuming porn. I mean, that's where you learned about sex.
Yep.
Porn was your sex ed.
Well, and here's the thing you have to realize. So now, so number one, changes the way you view women, and it circumvents your ability to build emotional connection.
Yeah.
And so number two is the power of first mention, right? Like that just took the power of first mention. No matter what you're told after that about sex, you're going to have to actively work to believe the new information because of what the first information was. And here's why. As humans, we are the most intelligent species. And so by nature here,
most of us are.
Most of us, yeah, with some exceptions. But with that, you have, with any species, you have really two different types of behaviors. You have instinctive or innate, which are hardwired into the DNA.
Yep.
These are things that are primarily surround survival. And so like sex for dogs is instinctive. Mm-hmm. They have sex when the female is in heat.
Yep.
There isn't sex outside of that. Dolphins, believe it or not, are the only other species that mate when the female's not in heat.
Those dirty dolphins.
Those dirty dolphins, man. So there's belief that maybe dolphins experience joy in sex too, like where they actually have the feeling that humans get, but it's very, very, very different for humans. It's not tied to an instinctive behavior where we just naturally know how to do it. And we have a lot of behaviors like this as humans. That's why our babies are worthless for the first 2 years of their 3 years of their life, because they're learning. They're useless.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they are.
Yeah.
If you think about a baby,
they can't fend for themselves.
They can't fend for themselves. They can't feed themselves. They can't contribute to...
Which nothing else in nature is like that.
Nothing else in nature is like that. They're supercharged with instinctive behaviors that cause them to catch up really quickly so they don't get left behind, so they can stay with the pack, so they can stay with the herd. Humans, by nature, are like because God partners with us and doesn't want us just to be purely living off of pre-programming. He caused us to be learned so that we would have to experience something, make a determination, and then adopt that as a belief system. And what we're doing is our bodies, our brains actually are actively looking to take an experience and turn it into what I would use the term of second nature. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to take an action. We're trying to build the muscle memory to put it into our subconscious so we can do that action without having to give it too much conscious thought.
Yeah.
Because it's a way more efficient way to operate.
Yes.
The more things that I can put into my subconscious second nature portion of my brain, the more effective and efficient I become on a daily basis.
Yeah, you're not working as hard.
It's not efficient to think about brushing my teeth.
No.
I want my brain to figure out how to subconsciously do that. Now, your brain at a young age is actively looking for those things.
Yep.
It's intentionally taking an experience or something that it's taught and saying, how can I repeat this enough times, put it in the subconscious part of my brain, and make this so it feels like an instinctive behavior. A human's version of an instinctive behavior is repeated enough times that it's now second nature. Yep. So now that's a really quick, really simple baseline of the way human brain works. Now let's go back and reinsert introduction to pornography at 10 years old.
Right.
Power of first mention. Maybe it was a violent scene that was watched, and so that kid for the first 2 years just watched violent porn. Now they're 12. They've consumed violent porn for 2 years of some nature, or aggressive porn, without them even trying. Their brain took everything they viewed, deposited it into this subconscious part of their brain to make that sexual experience second nature. So without even realizing it, that's where that man is going to default to.
And he's going to try to act that out.
Absolutely.
Not even, okay, so let's just say this. Guy has a conscience. He gets married. let's say that he's not even acting it out on his wife.
Yep.
But that's his idea of what is pleasurable. Even if he doesn't want to choke his wife or do all those crazy things, he has this internal struggle inside of him, right? These two worlds that are battling. That's like, I want to do this thing that I've seen. Yep. But it's not okay to do this thing that I've seen, or I'm not sure if it's okay. And it just completely destroys. And that's the challenge, is it's like porn completely strips the innocence away from what life should be like, what marriage should be like, what connection should be like. And it gives you this other view, this other playing field that then you have to battle your whole entire life with, trying to figure out, like, wait, what is healthy? What is helpful? What is right?
Absolutely.
Even if you're not consuming it anymore, your grip on innocence, your grip on how God designed stuff is really challenging, because your first experiences, or the majority of your experiences,
first and majority, most likely,
are really challenging. I had a friend of mine, they got married. And one of the things I do a lot is I counsel couples. Yeah. I've done it for a long time. And so I was helping her. She came to my office to talk about her marriage, and they had only been married for like, I don't know, less than a year. And she said, I really struggled on our honeymoon night, because when we first had sex, it was like 5 minutes and done. Mm-hmm. And she said, I thought something was wrong with me. I thought we were going to roll around in the bed for an hour. Like, that was her idea of, she had never seen anything. Yeah. Her mom and sisters never really prepared her. Yeah. Well, and so her first experience was really shocking, because, and she wasn't even watching porn. She was watching Hollywood movies. Yeah. Like we all do, right? Yep. And Hollywood is saying, hey, if you can have sex up against a wall, standing up, and it's awesome. She'll love it. Or,
and when you get done in the morning, there's no bad breath, and they're done and they roll over. I'm like, wait a sec, you can't roll over there. There's a puddle there. Where's your towel?
No regret. Yeah, there's no regret. And so for her, as innocent as she was, not educated at all, at least not educated in porn at all, there's still this massive misconception. So, so many marriages are struggling because so many men are struggling to even know, what do women desire, because their brains are so jacked up on porn. But that didn't happen at 28.
Nope. That happened leading up.
That happened at 10.
Yeah. Well, and the thing you said a second ago, to pause there for even a minute, with the expectations that you come in with, because what the conversation almost inevitably turns into in a marriage. For a guy like you talked about, where they've looked at violent porn, what most of the time happens is, at first they don't try to cross that line, right? Yeah. And because it's new, she's exciting at first. Yeah. That's one of the things, is novelty is a big part of sex. Yeah. So, they've tested this with mice, where they'll have two mice together, and those mice will hit it until that male is no longer interested. Yeah. And multiple times in one setting, he's exhausted, cannot do it. They remove the female, they add a new female, he's supercharged again. Yep. Here we go, ready to go.
It's novelty.
It's novelty. So at first in a marriage, let's say this, let's talk, again, scenario. Found it at 10, looked at it till 16, went to a summer camp, went to something, got free, got married at 23, was free of it for 5 years maybe, or very sporadically. Yeah. The novelty of the wife is exciting at first, but then what'll happen is he'll go a little bit too far based on what he was preconditioned for, and she says, oh, that made me uncomfortable. Okay, sorry, won't do that again. And we as guys know how to test where we can go.
Yeah, humans do.
Even in our marriage. Yeah, absolutely. So test until it gets to the point where the wife is no longer arousing. The wife is no longer exciting because, well, we've been doing it the same way now for a few years. And I've got this variety buffet foundation that I'm built on. And then what does the narrative become? Becomes that the wife isn't willing to be adventurous. Yeah. It becomes that she's not willing to get outside of the box.
She's so boring.
She's boring. And then they start to drift. Either she has to give in, or oftentimes the man goes and finds what he needs elsewhere. Yeah. And we've both seen that story too many times.
Yeah. And it's a tragedy, because even you take out the violence out of the porn, even if you're just consuming just mild, normal porn, you're being preconditioned to so many different scenarios, so many different things that you get used to. Oh, this is what I want. This is what I need. I saw another study that said, guys they're not watching one continual porn scene. Yeah. They're doing like 1,000 clicks during a session.
Absolutely.
So, they're getting these different hits.
Every 20 seconds, they can get a new hit. One of the interesting things, too, for us with dopamine, and so we haven't even got into that yet, really, but what's going on is our brain is releasing these chemicals that are causing us to number one, be addicted and attach. Vasopressin and oxytocin attach us to the experience.
Let's restart right here. Okay. I mean, not like cut the podcast, but let's dive into, because we've talked enough about, let's dive into, explain what's going on in our brains, explain the chemicals that are released.
So this is really big, right? So, and I'm going to make this really easy statement, and then I'll explain the science behind it.
Do it.
Our culture has taught people to chase an orgasm, not connection.
Okay.
We've been going after an orgasm for 2 generations now, not connection.
Yeah.
So when I'm going after an orgasm, I'm trying to get to the orgasm as quick as possible, again, as efficiently as possible, the path that I think will get me there the fastest. Mm-hmm. It's really just about getting off rather than getting with. Wow, is the best way I would say it.
Yeah.
And nobody's immune to this, right? Like, I've never looked at porn, and there's been seasons in my marriage where I'm trying to get an orgasm and get off, not be with my wife.
And the problem with that is we would say that sex in a marriage, sex, because it should be in a marriage, is not about the orgasm.
Not just about it. Now, I think there's seasons, like my wife and I, man, we love to have a good quickie at lunch, and we both enjoy it, and both of us are just going after the excitement of the orgasm and that feeling. But if it's only that every time, it's shallow, and it's taken sex and it's stripped it down of its real value, which is to bond a couple to a point where it would be illogical that I would leave my father and mother, I would cleave to my wife, what the Lord has brought together that I would never want to have separated.
Yep.
When I make sex just an orgasm, I have to condition my brain to strip it of its bonding ability.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what has taken place. And here's what the bonding ability is, the way that the Lord wired our biology. Is we have hundreds of neurotransmitters. These are things that release chemicals in response to situations and circumstances. You have them that work if you're a sports fan and you're at a game and your team just won for baseball, they hit a home run and it ended the game. It's called a walk-off home run. Game's over. The excitement, your brain is releasing these transmitters that say, I can't believe I came to this game. I didn't watch it at home. Amazing.
Yeah.
I imagine if you hit the deer, right? Like you kill the animal, if you're a hunter, like that moment is just like euphoric, right? Like our brains are meant to reward us for certain things.
Yeah.
In hunting, why is that the way? Is because before we had the world that we lived in now, you needed to create a second nature biological response to providing food so you'd provide for your family.
Otherwise you'd just starve. You'd just be like, whatever.
I'm not motivated. I'll just go pick some berries. But no, God knew we needed meat. He knew. And so I think he built that biological thing into us so that we would be rewarded when we provide for our family, not just watching my son eat, but also the experience of the hunt, right?
Yep.
Like all of those things. And every experience you have, both, and I use positive ones, there's also negative ones, right? Where your transmitters are saying, no, run. Get out of this situation. Fear is actually not a bad thing. We say we want to be fearless. Actually, I want to have some fear sometimes, right? Like I need that at
Standing
times.
in front of a train, I want fear to say, hey, you might want to move.
Absolutely, right? And so specifically when it comes to relationship, sex, pornography, the 4 that are at play primarily are vasopressin and oxytocin, dopamine and serotonin. And what those do, vasopressin and oxytocin are bonding agents. These are neurotransmitters that are released that cause you to feel ownership. Okay, and that's what when a 16-year-old kid, let's say, who his brain doesn't fully develop for another 6 years, begins to have sex in high school, and that relationship falls apart. Well, because you don't have full development of the frontal cortex, which holds the self-control and decision-making portion of the brain, but you do have full control of your neurotransmitters are functioning just fine. Vasopressin has been released every time he's been with this girl. And now good decision-making and self-control is undeveloped. What does he do now the moment they break up? He becomes the rage, jealous, angry boyfriend that can't handle the breakup.
And he has like chemically bonded with her.
He has chemically bonded with her. His brain has taken his experiences with her, put them into his subconscious, done what the brain was meant to do, and said, this is my wife.
Yep.
Whether they've ever crossed the altar or not, to his biology,
she's mine.
She's mine. And
which also sheds a ton of light, secondarily here, sheds a ton of light on why it's so hard to get over a breakup.
Absolutely. That's why they say you'll never forget your first, because you were never supposed to forget your first. It's so true.
Yep.
That you bond significantly. Dating has never been the way that it is right now in our culture in the last 50 years, where you would potentially have multiple girlfriends or boyfriends before you ever cross the altar. I mean, that's never in the history of the world been the way that dating has been.
Yep.
And so whether you've had sex or not, you've bonded at some level. And so what happens if I bond to that person and we break up? What do I have to do? Just so I can be sane, I have to convince myself that I'll be okay. I have to convince myself that it doesn't hurt. I get to partner number 2, partner number 3, partner number 4. For men in America, the average man has 6 sexual partners before their wedding day.
Wow.
So what I've done 6 times then is I've had to convince my emotions to shut up. Yeah. I've had to convince my bonding neurotransmitters to stop being so emotional. Yeah. Stop being so weak. Stop being so committed. You should be able to have casual sex and not have it bother you like all the other men. Because if you're going to be a man in this society, you have to have lots of sex. And if you don't have lots of sex, you're not a real man. So that means you have to learn how to quiet and silence your emotions.
And all the while, your emotions are just, I mean, it's a jackhammer.
Yeah.
It's a sledgehammer to your emotions.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like whiplash. I love her. No, I don't. I can't say love, because to love means I'm going to have to unbond. And so we're going back and forth.
And you love something, or you want something that you can't have.
Absolutely. So that's what vasopressin and oxytocin does. Then you come in and you add dopamine and serotonin. These are the happy chemicals. These are reward chemicals. These tell your brain, that was awesome. Position your life to do that as often as you can. Mm-hmm. Get like that. We've got to do that over and over. This is right now a big part of why video games have taken over. Because the other thing that dopamine and serotonin do is they have no work ethic. They have no character. They have no integrity. They just want the reward. They want that chemical release any means possible. So like video games, for instance, man, they get you there quick. Yeah. You don't, I have to work hard to be good on an athletic field or an athletic court.
Right.
I can, in just a couple games, start to do really good at video games. And then they do it on purpose. So like when I got COVID, my kids, I started playing Fortnite. I was at home for 9 days. My kids are playing Fortnite. I won my first game ever. First game ever I played, I won. My boy's like, oh my gosh, Dad, you're awesome. And I'm like, yeah, I am awesome. And I play a second game, and I'm doing really good. What are they doing? They're giving me the reward of victory. I found out later, do you know what they do on purpose? They match you with other players that haven't played.
Right.
The system knows. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get me to think I'm really, really good. They're trying to get me to give me that dopamine release. Maybe they don't have the language to say dopamine and serotonin, but they're trying to give me the reward of victory with absolutely no discipline to get there.
It's the pathway to addiction.
It's the pathway to addiction. I got massive reward, very little discipline, no work ethic. Holy smokes.
Yeah. How do I get that?
How do I get that? Well, that's what porn is. Porn in particular gives you a really, really powerful reward with absolutely no connection, no relationship, no work. And you could get a new reward every 20 seconds. And that's the last part of the dopamine and the serotonin that I want to say is you actually get as much of a release with the anticipation of what's next as you do with the act.
Right.
So that's why a new scene becomes so exciting, a new video, a new click. because the excitement of what's about to come. If you have a dog, you'll see this. A dog just absolutely illustrates this. My dog will come up to me wagging her tail. I will put my hand above her head, not touch her, and she'll wag faster. The moment I touch her head, her tail stops wagging. If you have a dog, try this. You'll see it. Because what's happening, the anticipation of being petted and then the closeness of feeling like you're about to experience that just begins to unload. Oh, I'm about to get pet. I'm about to get pet. The moment the action happens, oh, well, that's good, but it's not as good as the anticipation of the excitement of it being about to happen. Well, that's what porn offers. Porn offers the excitement of the unknown next. You don't know what the next video is. You have an idea, but you don't really know what's going to happen, what's going to be portrayed, what's going to take place, which is in a marriage, you don't get a new scene every 20 seconds because it's not about the orgasm. It's about connection, and connection requires intimacy. Connection requires nurturing. Connection requires discipline and work ethic of relationship. And so that's where porn has become so damaging, is it's actually teaching us chase the orgasm, chase the dopamine and the serotonin fix. You're bonding to a screen, not to a human. And so you're having to teach yourself to numb yourself to the bonding emotions that are being created. And you're able to get a variety that isn't even healthy. It's not even fair to ever expect that of our wives.
Yeah. Because that's not what real human interaction is.
Yeah.
I mean, you get taught to chase instant gratification, right? That's the destruction of responsibility. It's a destruction of a man and even a woman. You know, what a woman is chase instant gratification. It's probably the quickest pathway to hell.
Yep. Absolutely. In any area.
Yeah. And I'm not talking literal hell. I'm simply saying a life that you hate, instant gratification.
Yep.
Because there's no real long-term reward when we chase instant gratification. And so, man, so many years of not bonding to real people, so many years of suppressing your emotions, so many years of instant gratification. And you wake up one day, you get sober one day, long enough to go, my life feels like it has no real meaning. Yep. Which circles you right back into the addiction.
Absolutely.
It's tough.
It is.
Men are in a really tough place. The world's in a tough place.
Well, and we've all been there in different ways, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about porn and sex, but I don't know that any of us is immune to having a season where we chased instant gratification over the long-term reward.
100%.
And then look back, God, I wasted that 6 months of my life.
Yeah.
I wasted that year. I wasted that 5 years.
Wish I'd have been investing earlier.
Wish I would have been investing earlier. Wish I would have worked harder in my 20s so I could have worked less hard in my 30s. Right? All of those things. The question becomes, I think, for us as men, how many times do we have to look back and wish we would have done the hard thing first before we learned?
Yeah.
Right? Like, in any area of your life, it's the thing that I try to teach to my kids. I'm sure you try to teach to yours. I try to tell my boys, like, guys, true enjoyment's on the other side of responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, you think you want to enjoy the couch right now, you're going to want to enjoy Saturday better than I'm going to have to let you enjoy it because you're not doing your Wednesday chores.
Yeah, you take what you're supposed to do today and put it on the back of tomorrow when you delay.
Yep.
You know, when you chase instant gratification.
And so whether it's this or it's something else, I think that's something that I know I'm still trying to learn in every area of, hey, do the hard thing first. Do the hard thing now.
Yeah.
Go after the biggest bear on day one.
Yeah.
So that from there, it naturally gets easier. Not only am I more equipped for the smaller bear, because I've slayed the big giant first. Now the small giant feels easier. Like, go at the hardest thing now.
Yeah. You know, I think a whole bunch of guys are going to be listening to this and go, okay, well, I don't want to be addicted. I don't want to have those old thoughts in my head, right? Mm-hmm. I want to be able to come to my marriage and have real expectations. Yeah. I want to come to my life and feel like it has meaning and purpose. And because everything outside of the video game, everything outside of porn, everything outside of, you know, the quick fix feels dull.
Yep.
It really does. Yeah. And life feels a little bit boring when you don't get that quick fix. I did this a little bit when I used to struggle a ton with anxiety. And I found fly fishing which this is a kind of a funny thing, but I started fly fishing like 4 days a week, 3-4 days a week.
Yeah.
And all I thought about, I'd come home and I'd tie flies, and then I'd go fly fishing. I'd build fly rods. I got a drift boat, and my whole world, my whole life was like fishing.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like I've got a wife and kids, and I'm doing a decent job, you know, like I'm not like leaving them out.
Yeah.
But I'm chasing this excitement to manage.
Yep.
To manage my anxiety. Like that's my medication.
Yep.
Is fishing, because when I'm out there, I'm not thinking about how much anxiety I'm carrying. When I'm out there, I'm not thinking about the pressure. I'm not thinking about anything. And everything outside of this world, outside of the fly fishing, get the bite, it's the same kind of thing, because I'm waiting and anticipating this strike, this bite, the tug.
Absolutely.
And as soon as I get one, I want to get another one.
Yeah.
And another one, and another one.
I mean, you're reeling in the fish, and you're already thinking about the next bite, not even the fish that you're reeling in.
It's funny because it's a complete addiction.
Yep.
And having been out of that season for a while now, I'm able to look back and go, I'm interested to go fishing once in a while.
Yep.
But I don't really care.
Totally.
But it took a long time for my normal world, the real world, to get its color back.
Yeah.
And to feel exciting. And so I think the sad thing for a lot of men right now, the challenging thing is, how do I make my wife exciting? My marriage exciting, not my wife. How do I make my marriage exciting? How do I make my life feel exciting? How do I break this addiction to porn? Yeah.
Well, so there's a couple things here with that. Is Atomic Habits is a phenomenal book on this topic.
Really is.
You know, they're not talking necessarily about porn and sex, but they address it. But they're teaching you, again, it's a deep dive into the way our brains work. And so there's really one of two routes when you're trying to break any addiction or whatever, you know, regardless of what it is. The fastest and quickest route is change your context. That was one of the interesting things that they found, is that context can supercharge habit destruction and recreation. And they use this analogy in there with heroin back during the Vietnam War. All these vets, while they were over there, were getting addicted to heroin.
Yep.
And they were really concerned about how they're going to introduce them back to society. And they really didn't implement anything. But once these men left Vietnam and got back into the U.S., the relapse rate was shockingly low.
I remember this study. Super low.
Super low. And they couldn't understand why. And they realized heroin was only connected to the context of war. And in Vietnam, it wasn't connected to the context of family in the United States.
Yeah.
Whereas even somebody that goes to a rehab here, if they go back to their same home in their same environment, their same friends in their same town,
back in this old context,
90% of them were going back.
Yeah. And
so, and I think, if I remember right, 90% is actually the stat. I have to look back and refresh myself on. It's close to that. It's something really like holy smokes high. And so if you can change the context, if you have the power to change your context, and so scenarios that might be, get rid of your smartphone and go to a flip phone for 2 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's extreme. Everyone's going to ask me why I have a flip phone. Absolutely. But most people that look at porn, the context is on their cell phone.
You're so used to doing the same routine every day that it's just locked in your brain. You open it up, you have a hard moment, you open it up unconsciously, you scroll over, you look at it, and boom, you're in it.
Absolutely. And we do it, I do it in different ways. I will be sitting here, not even thinking, and go to ESPN.com in my phone. There's not a game I was looking for. Yep. There's not a storyline I wanted.
It's true.
I'm not even in season of any of the sports that I follow.
Here's the thing you could do. You could just get a completely different phone.
You could.
Switch from an iPhone to a Samsung.
Yeah, that works. So I think that first question is, can I change my context?
Yeah.
If you can change your context, that's going to be huge. If you're somebody that struggles with affairs and being faithful to your wife, you might seriously want to change the context of your town, your city. Yeah. If you've repeated mistakes in the same area, a change of context could be the biggest way to help supercharge. Because what it does is it almost gives a white blank page to your mental pathways. So your mental pathway is the actual physical part of your brain that holds the habit. And so if you can shock your system to a change, you're going to find yourself, hey, I'm moving into an area of freedom. It could be something as simple as like a 6-month period of busyness at work. I don't recommend men busy themselves with work for the sake of doing it. But if you can give yourself to something for a period of time that pulls you out of that addiction.
Maybe pick up a new hobby. How's that?
Pick up a new hobby.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing is, where it's a constructive use of my time that there's also a reward on the other side of.
Yeah.
Right? The new hobby provides a reward. Maybe if work gives me a reward of finances, whatever that thing is, that's different than that thing you've become accustomed to. And if you just are like, I can't find a way to change the context of my situation. It's not possible. Cannot do it. It's not just excuses that's preventing me from changing context. I literally can't change the context. Well, then the reality of it is you have a daily grind that you're going to have immense accountability, which you need accountability on either side anyways. But you got to let somebody in really deep. You got to say, hey, I'm going to let you in really deep to when I want to disengage. I want to disengage and I want to go after this thing. I want to pursue this disengagement from my responsibilities, from my family, whatever it is. I'm going to commit to fish once a week instead of 4 times a week.
Yeah.
I'm going to make Saturday my fishing day. I'm going to fish every Saturday morning. I'm going to look forward to fishing every Saturday morning. But no matter what happens, even if I have a 10 o'clock appointment on a Thursday, I'm not going to go fish Thursday morning.
Yeah.
And actually set up those parameters. And you do have to, it's in a sense, you're detoxing, right? And it's the unique thing where the reality of it is all of our addictions, whether it's porn or whatever, have a deeper reason behind them.
Yes.
It's not porn for the sake of porn. It's not even orgasm for the sake of orgasm. Even if it started at 12 years old, your brain learned really quickly, wow, an orgasm's a really good medicine for rejection.
Yep.
Whenever I feel rejected, I can have an orgasm and I get a break from that for a moment. So you have to figure out, why am I actually doing this thing? And then you have to set up this accountability and these things that you're willing to commit to give yourself some parameters so that you actually then on that Thursday morning when you really want to go after this, if I'm just sitting there thinking, I've got to fish,
Yeah.
sit there and ask yourself, why do I feel like I have to fish right now?
Yeah. To me, it's all about creating a complete new lifestyle that you can immerse yourself in.
Yeah.
And because it's not going to be one thing, right? And you don't want to live in a prison either, not for very long.
No.
So I see a lot of guys, they put blockers on their computer, blockers on their phone.
Yep.
And at first that's okay.
Like, and those are great.
Yeah, I think that's
keep
fun
you out of the bar
first.
if you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But at some point you have to be able to
manage yourself.
Yeah, to manage yourself, right? So it's at first you're going to do a bunch of external controls.
Yep.
And while you change your internal control, because you don't have a lot of control inside. And so eventually that power is going to shift and while you build up this internal fortitude.
Yep.
And so to me, it's what you're talking about. It's the dopamine detox.
Yep.
Where you are able to, change your phone, change your environment, change the context. You're able to shut my phone off, whatever you have to do to detox from this dopamine hit.
Well, and that's
a
thing that's important to pause on, I think, Jay, is we have to realize that there will be a detox period as physically, like our body can physically manifest that the same way an alcoholic can detox. Like you have to realize, especially if you're detoxing from porn, you're going to go through a detox period where relationships almost anger you.
Yeah.
Like you have to give yourself room to realize it's going to be hard as hell because you're fighting hell. Like you're literally fighting back the gates of hell. You're going to go through a detox period that is so tough that's going to cause you to question every day if it's worth it. Yeah,
that's possible. It's 100% possible. But I think setting yourself up for success and going, hey, I'm going to take 2 months, set aside, and I'm going to detox, which basically your brain's a neuroplastic, which we haven't talked about yet.
Yep.
Which means that your brain will create new pathways.
Absolutely.
And your brain will bond to new things.
Mm-hmm.
And you can create new habits and new patterns. And so although you may have a day that's hard or 2 days or a month that's hard, you won't have a life that's hard.
Yep.
And guys need to know that.
That's so good.
It's only hard in the beginning.
Yep.
And it's like anything, at first you're like, man, I don't want to, running so hard. Well, after you run for a while, pretty soon you crave it.
Yeah.
And you crave the work, you crave the hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Splitting wood sucks. Well, I used to think that until I loved splitting wood.
Absolutely.
And you learn to crave that reward. And so your brain, guys, is going to heal. You're going to create a new neural pathway, which means you're going to have a whole new set of habits and a whole new set of cravings and a whole new set of natural aims that you want to go after. And so to me, it's let's detox.
Yep.
And just know this, if it's tough, it won't be tough forever. That's what you're telling yourself.
That's it.
And you're rewarding yourself by saying, I'm becoming the man that I wanted to become.
Yes.
I'm becoming a man of conviction. I'm becoming a man of character. I'm turning the lights on. I'm adding color. I'm adding detail. I'm adding value to my life. Great. That's worth sacrificing for.
Yep.
And then you have to pull in strong men into this process.
Yep.
And here's why. Not just for accountability's sake, like how long have you looked at porn? When guys keep track of stuff, I'm actually not a huge fan of keeping track.
Yeah.
And there's lots of reasons why. I think it focuses the attention on the wrong thing.
Yep.
When's the last time you touched your penis? Oh, I didn't touch it. And I think you bring strong men in to help lend you courage. When Jesus sent out the disciples he sent them out 2 by 2. And it said, at least one falls, he has the other to pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he wasn't even talking about sin. He's like, man, if you've ever gone on a hike with somebody or done anything hard, there comes a point when either one of you during that week will go, I'm tired, man.
Yeah.
You have a setback, you're getting sore, and the other person is there to remind you like, oh, bro, this is why we started.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. That's where the word encourage. I give you my courage. I'm imparting my courage to you.
Yeah.
And where most guys fail, not on purpose, where most guys fail is they attach themselves to other weak men who are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying weak men as in a slam on them. I'm saying we attach ourselves to people who aren't living in victory.
Yep.
And therefore, as soon as you start to struggle, what you're looking at is someone who's failed as well.
Yep.
You're not looking at victory. You're not going, I'm with guys who know how to get it done.
Absolutely.
Who have done this before. It's like you on that horse when we were on our, trip to the shooting school. You're following a line of 10 horses.
Yep.
The leader is a guy who's an expert.
Yep.
So when your horse starts to struggle up the hill, you're going to go up the hill. If you were there by yourself, or a lot of guys there by themselves would be like, I'm not going up that hill.
I wouldn't have done it.
No, because when we go up these really steep hills, the horses are laboring, they're breathing hard, they're slipping, they're struggling.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, this is too much. This is scary. This is dangerous. I'm done.
Where's the helicopter?
And there's just so many different analogies that we have for, listen, you need a guide in your life. Mm-hmm. Men, you need a guide in your life. And good friends don't always make great guides.
It's true.
Good friends don't always know how to get you where you need to go. You need a guide.
Yep.
Your friends are there to cheer you on, impart courage to you, go on the journey with you, but you need a guide. And so this to me is one of the biggest parts of like, join a group of men who have conquered and are conquering.
That's it.
In the area that you want to conquer, right?
Yeah.
Because not only are they detoxing with you or helping you to do that, but they're also giving you the tools, the principles to fortify your inner man. Yeah. Which is massive.
Absolutely. I mean, winning's contagious.
It really is.
So when I'm around people who have been victorious, who win, who don't let up, who are going after the fullness of life, the natural byproduct that's going to manifest in me is the same thing.
100%. you know, in that quote where they say that you become the sum total of the people you hang around, right? And like the 5 people you hang around is so true.
Yeah.
Is you're either going to get kicked out by them or you're going to get pulled up.
And either way, you got something to grow into.
Yeah, it's real. And so for me, you know, this is the start to the road into, it's not just out of porn, it's into the life that you really want. Is the road into the life that you really want is change your context by changing your friends.
That's great.
By getting a guide.
I love it.
By getting on the right path. And this to me can change everything. And then finally, like, I think that you, like what you said, we really have to understand ourselves.
Yeah.
And understand what's driving us.
Yep.
Because at first, when you're really innocent, when you're 10, you know, the first orgasm I ever had wasn't because I wanted to.
It wasn't because you had dealt with rejection or hurt.
No.
It just was, whoa.
I can literally remember it. It was in a hot tub.
Wow.
It was like a jet, hot tub jet. Like, it was so innocent. I literally was like, oh, wow, that feels good.
Holy smokes, that's about to feel really good.
Yeah. And then that was like, wow, that was an experience I wasn't ready for. And that turned into my solution for frustration. That turned into my solution for disappointment. Yeah. That was my solution for insecurity. That was my solution for loneliness, my solution for boredom, my solution for whatever. Wanted to feel more excitement. And we have to stop and understand the driver behind our life.
Absolutely.
Because you can turn the porn off. You can, you know, have new friends. You can get a new phone.
But if you don't figure out the root.
If you don't understand, okay, it's like this. If you don't understand how to deal with your triggers in life, how to deal with your frustration, how to deal with your shame, how to deal with your pain, how to process your emotions, which guys are like, oh my gosh, I have to do all that work. Well, you get to. It's about creating, again, a life that you're proud of. Yeah. And in every life, guys, every single one of us deals with pain on a regular basis. I deal with pain on a regular basis. Yeah. Disappointment, frustration. My wife doesn't say yes every time I ask.
What?
If we can have sex.
What?
Yeah. I mean, maybe yours says, but I could call her and ask her and she would tell me the truth.
Well, and can I give a practical thing on that?
Please do.
Because I think one of the things that we can do is you actually, next time you're feeling just the, I've got to look at porn, the urge, grab out a pad and take an assessment of your last 48 hours. What are the things that just happened?
Your highs and your lows.
What are your highs and your lows? What are the things that happened that you loved? What are the things that happened that were hard? Yep. Maybe you just worked 2 16-hour days in a row and you're exhausted and you're just exhausted. Because what that's going to do, taking an assessment of the hours and the couple days leading up, is it's going to help you identify what are my triggers that cause me to want to go back to this. That's going to tell you what your subconscious brain thinks porn can do for you. Yeah. Your brain's going to say, oh, look at orgasm. I need an orgasm. Why do I need an orgasm? Oh, I really screwed up at work yesterday. They wrote me up and they said, if I do it again, I'm fired. So I'm facing rejection. I'm facing lack of finances, provision, this concern that I'm not going to have enough. Write all those emotions down. Well, now you know, hey, these could be the triggers that cause me to go after porn. So now while you sit there, let's say you got 4 things on the list that have went wrong. Dive into the Word of God. All right, where's the answer in the Bible for this situation, Father? And take a minute, pray. I think you'll find that if you'll go after actually giving these things to the Lord, we're not even yet trying to avoid looking at porn. Right now, we're just trying to identify how's my heart, why is my heart where it's at, and how can I give these things to God? I think you'll find that at the end of that, even if let's say that takes 15 minutes where you just pray through them and then you feel really good about them, you feel like there's been resolution, I think you'll realize, God, I don't want to look at porn right now either. Yeah. I just identified my problems, my hurts, took them to the Lord, found some solutions on my own. I didn't realize how easy it was to find a solution if I take it to Him.
Yeah, here's the other thing too is I think that connecting with God is massive. and then taking it to the next level, which is you got to talk this out. You got to learn how to communicate.
Yep.
Right. You got to learn how to
Dialogue about it.
get with your guys.
Yep.
And have a real conversation.
Huge.
Because we've been taught, again, think about what you learned. You learn to shove your emotions aside. Mm-hmm. You learn to not validate them.
To mute them.
Yep, to mute them. And some people are only going to God.
Yep.
So that's part of why men are in this struggle.
Because they don't ever have the accountability with another man.
They don't want to show another man their weakness.
Yeah.
And listen, guys, God isn't enough for you. Oh no, everyone wants to shut it off now. Adam's in the garden. He's walking with God, hand in hand, every day. He's walking with God. Day. And God goes, I've given you all these animals. I've given you this land.
I've given you power, control, purpose.
And you're missing something.
Still missing something.
You are missing this connection that you need. And so, God is absolutely our source.
Yep.
For direction, protection, comfort, love, unconditional love. He's our source for identity. You have to have that as a foundation. And then you have your brothers and you have, your family that's beside you. What ultimately ended the nail in the coffin for me in my addiction struggle with masturbation and porn, both. I dealt with them both at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm 16 years old. Actually, I think I'm 15 years old. Just like in tons of pain. I've been talking through this with my dad for a year. And finally one night I was talking to him and he said, "Hey, what do you think about telling the family?" Which basically means tell my older sisters and my mom.
Yeah.
That I'm struggling, with watching naked women.
What do you think about not doing that, Dad?
With orgasming.
What do you think about no way?
Orgasming to naked women, right? Yeah. That's what I'm about to go tell them.
Totally.
In my mind. I'm not trying to be dirty.
Yeah,
literally, that's
absolutely.
what I'm thinking. So I said, Dad, do you think it'll help? And he said, I know it will. So I can still remember, of course, to this day.
Yeah.
I remember my dad is sitting next to me. My sisters are sitting out in front of me. And I told them, I just looked him in the eyes and I said, I've really been struggling for the past year with porn and masturbation. And I needed, I don't know what to do. And my sisters and my mom, they got up around me and they prayed for me. And they loved me and they poured into me. And I remember thinking like, I have to do something every single day to remind myself of who I am.
Yeah.
It was a complete reset for me. It made it a fair fight.
Wow.
I'd never had a fair fight.
Yeah. It's
right.
amazing.
Because I started so young.
Yep.
So then I wore a white t-shirt every day. So guys, this is the reset. Like this is the change of context. I wore a white shirt every day.
Yep.
In high school to remind me of who I was. Mm-hmm. And I did that for a year.
Wow.
Which was super unpopular, super unfun, but I didn't care.
Yeah.
My family knew me.
Yep.
I had this positive peer pressure.
Yep.
I had this positive accountability where they weren't saying, have you been looking at porn? Are you struggling? They were going, Jay, you are an incredible man.
Yeah.
And that launched me into this new season. So to me, it's like, guys, add some white t-shirts to your wardrobe, right? And get guys. So a lot of guys are asking like, how do I find a good community of men? How do I get connected with men? It's why we created BraveCo. Mm-hmm. It's why we do what we do is so you can join our Foundations of Masculinity course. You can dive in there. You get really great curriculum, really great teaching. You can join our podcast. If you're listening to this, you're already a part of it. You can jump in and join our YouTube channel. You can also join your local church.
Yep.
And get into a small group, right? It doesn't have to be something BraveCo is doing. Get into a small group.
Yep.
A small group of guys who are doing something.
And be open, be vulnerable, be real.
Yeah. You can even initiate real connection with men.
Yep.
Invite them to do something fun. Don't call a guy and go, hey, you want to go to coffee with me? It's awkward, like that long pause. Because here's the thing.
What's wrong with coffee? You just don't drink it. That's why you think we shouldn't go to coffee.
Nah, because in the church, here's what we do in the church. We go to coffee and we have this connect and what happens at coffee, and I'm slamming coffee.
I can see that.
What happens at coffee
Stays at coffee?
it's just like there's not enough fun in it. You're just talking about your hard things, and it's like, well, how many times does that guy want to come talk about hard things?
Totally.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, if you said have coffee and a cigar, maybe.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's enough. I don't even drink cigars, but my friends who do.
Yeah, nobody drinks cigars, actually. I've never seen anybody drink a cigar.
Cigars, but my friends who smoke cigars, they get together, they're like, man, when can we get together again to smoke a cigar? Maybe there's enough fun in it. But here's actually what I think. Like, do something fun with a guy.
Yeah, that's great.
Build a bond. Build a connection. It's really hard to build a bond.
Like go to a baseball game.
Go to a baseball game.
Boom.
Go hiking together.
Yeah.
And actually build a real relationship. Then, if coffee's a part of it, great. But it's really hard to build a bond over coffee.
What if the coffee's really good?
I'm just saying, like, it's really hard to build a bond over, you're trying to build a bond with guys.
Yeah, because fun is a big part of building a relationship.
It is.
Yeah.
Fun, adventure.
You got to position yourself not just for all the serious, heavy moments, but
competition.
Yeah, like all that stuff.
Build a bond, and you'd be well on your way. Cole, is there anything that we missed or that we need to hit before we close this up?
I'm sure that we missed some things and that we'll get an email or a comment about it. But nothing that comes to mind. I mean, I think, I guess the last thing I would just say to men is it's winnable. Mm-hmm. The lie that you've believed that it can't be done, it can't be won is not true. Our brains are plastic, which doesn't mean hard plastic, but the plasticity of our brain. Our brain is actually really powerful to readapt, no matter how old we are. You used to think that the older you got, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It is true. The older you are, the harder it is, but it's still very, very, very possible.
Yeah.
And then when you add in deep relationships with other men, you add in the power of God who's going to help you. He wants you to win. Your dad wants you to win more than anybody else. He wants you to win. God wants us to win more than we want ourselves to win sometimes, right? And so just know this is a winnable fight.
It is.
So if your first step from this podcast is to shift your mindset and fill yourself with hope and faith that you can do it, that's step number one. Yeah,
I'll throw in a couple more resources. And if you know that you're addicted to porn and you're really struggling, you fought it for a long time, our Transformation Center, which we can put a link to that, we have a addiction program for men that's really successful. I've seen a lot of men who have been struggling go through it and get really, really well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And also, I would say if your marriage is struggling because of it, go see a counselor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Invest.
Counseling is huge.
Invest your finances, your time, your effort, your energy. If you know that you have an addiction, don't just try and beat it on your own.
Yeah.
Get some professional help. Jump in and invest in getting well. So, Cole, would you pray for us? I don't always do this, but I just want to do this after.
Yeah, let's pray. Man, Lord, I thank you that you created us and that you put us together and you knit us together the way that you did. The complexity of the way our brains and our biology and our minds work and the ability we have to adapt and to shift and to have just a the neuroplasticity of our brain is so incredibly exciting and intriguing because no matter how far we've fallen, we can climb back up.
Yep.
And I thank you for that truth. I pray that you would just deposit faith in any man that is listening, that has lost hope, that has lost faith in their ability to fight, that you would right now, even in this moment, fill them with faith, Father. Fill them with a belief that victory can be theirs. I pray that anybody that has memories, images, old thoughts, pictures that they've seen, situations or scenarios they've been in, that they have these memories that they can't get rid of, that their brain grabs onto at different points in the day, or maybe they have these dreams that are based on memories of past experiences. Father, would you do a mental miracle right now, renew their minds, eradicate these old images, completely wipe these old memories and images out of their mind so that they would be able to start new and fresh, that they would be able to build new habits? Would you do years worth of counseling in a moment right now?
Yeah.
Completely wipe clean through a mental miracle their thought life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Cole, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And guys, let's fight the good fight. Stay brave out there. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the BraveCo podcast. If you like this podcast, would you please rate it, review it, leave us a great comment. And if you like this episode in particular, share it with your friends and family. That helps us to spread the word. Guys, stay brave. We'll see you next week.